Hi, everyone. Thanks for mingling with everyone. I would like to bring folks up who haven't had a chance to minute pitch. So, Paul, let me find you on the list and see if we can bring you up here to do the 1 minute pitch. Just on that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right. So I'm going to give you the 1 minute pitch, and then I'm going to drop you off, and then I'm going to put you at the end for the 3 minute pitch.
Thank you.
If you want to do 3 minutes.
Just
all right.
Tell me when to start.
Now.
Okay. I'm Paul Siegel from Starweaver. We're a 6-person technology and media platform that delivers a completely new, immersive, compelling, and connected education experience for tech and business professionals. Think immersive Peloton training, but for tech and business pros. What's the problem? Online education isn't working for employers. 15% of courses on Udemy and Lynda get completed. 90% of our courses get completed. 5 to 6 times greater. We've got 35,000 students who it's been tested on. We launched May 1. We've got 100,000 people a month on our site. I've generated about 1.8 million in sales from the proprietary technology, which I built, that undergirds this. We're raising $750,000 in a preferred A round. Would love to speak to people. And my name is Paul Siegel again from Starweaver.
Thanks so much, Paul. We'll bring you back for your 3 minutes. If you have slides, you're welcome to use.
I do.
All right, cool.
I do.
So those people that are planning to do 3 minute your hands. Cool. So Jared, I'm going to bring you up next. Got to turn on your mic and camera.
All right.
There we go. Do you have slides?
I do.
You want to get them set so that they're showing in a screen share? So, guys, if, while he's doing that, if you want to see the screens big or the slides big, you can double click on the slide image and it should get bigger if you're in the tile view. And so you can adjust whole slides or picture within a picture. There's a bunch of options there so that you can watch that while you're doing it. So you don't have to have it split 50-50 with slides and picture.
I am having issues getting this to pull up. Do you mind if you drop me down a couple people while I figure this out? I think it's due to a program that I'm running Remo on right now.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
All right, Jerry, you're next. Turn on your camera and your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, right. I can hear you. Do you have slides?
I do. Let me see.
You want to share those slides?
Share. Let's see. Here we go. Oops. Okay, tell me what you see. Oh, okay, I can see it. Never mind.
All right, there you go. All right, so 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Ready to go?
Okay.
Yep, go.
All right. So I'm Jerry Yen, CEO of Advice Analytics, where we mitigate $12 billion in 401k compliance spend, specifically around compliance. The pandemic has pushed 401k compliance past its tipping point where it already was teetering at the very top of collapse. Firms are failing their audits 70%, which is an increase. It hasn't always been this way. It's increased 60% over the past 2 decades. Penalties have grown 45% year over year. The beatings will continue until morale improves. And providers, unfortunately, are finding themselves struggling with all the rules and regulations that are out there for 401k compliance. And it's going to get worse with the pandemic. What Advice Analytics has created is a predictive compliance SaaS platform. This is math, extrapolative math, a little bit of artificial intelligence and machine learning math, but it's still math, which machine learning is still math. It's just reinforced learning. We're able to take the data and go 12 months faster and 5 times cheaper than what current struggling providers are looking at. Our advantage is in automation and low fees because we are scaled, but importantly, we're also looking at predictive analytics to target tier 2. What do I mean by tier 2? Tier 1, who's our client? You've all heard of tier 1, Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price. They're not our clients, not our target yet. But tier 2, desperate to differentiate against tier 1, are folks you likely have never heard of, yet they're $2 trillion in assets and 30 million individual participants. What's the insight we've used? If you're an insider, like I've been for years, you understand that tier 2 uses data partners for visualization. What if we bundled in with an established data partner? We could achieve immediate credibility, access to data, and an early mover advantage with tier 2 record-keeping 401k clients. June, last month, we signed a bundling contract with one of the larger data partners for tier 2. We can now target 11 million participants with nearly $500 billion in dollars in assets. We've completed our integration. We will be live in August. Scratch that. We are live today, 3 days ahead of schedule. And we are now at contract terms with one of the clients targeting the other 4 for 10% of the marketplace. This one contract can yield 26 million ARR for Advice Analytics. And again, we're already proceeding forward on these 11 million. The business model is monthly payment on a per participant basis, $2.40, highly affordable, not paid for by the participant, but by the company itself. To achieve, the team has a quarter century of analytics and cybersecurity. Now expanding effort. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, there we go. So Eric and Chelsea and Alan, if you could come on stage, that would be great. Just click your mic and camera. Do you have any for Jerry?
So I really like, I already expressed I kind of have experience in this area. So I already appreciate the value of that from a market perspective and how difficult it is. I think that in general, like your pitch is really well structured. You really describe the problem well. And so you've really thought through that. You know, obviously it'd be nice to get through team and stuff like that, of course.
Right.
But you know, practice. So one thing I think I would like to know a little bit more about, maybe if you could go into the kind of how you make money, to just a little bit earlier and spend a little bit more time on that. I wasn't quite clear how that would work. And when you said, oh, the $26 million contract, I was like, for your first contract, you know, like it's kind of like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
So overall good pitch. So
thank you. Yeah. I need to tighten it up a little bit. I think you're right. Absolutely.
Practice, you know,
appreciate it.
Yeah, overall, Jerry, I thought it was a very good pitch. I think you sort of set the stage and what you're talking about. You sort of put out some numbers that were easily digestible. You revealed a bit of intrigue about the space that you're in and why it's unique and why you're going after the lower tier. As somebody who had a 401k through a second or maybe third tier, I'm not even sure, provider in the past, there's definitely differences between those types of providers. You know, you I think achieved the goal with me anyway, which is that I would like to know more about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that was overall pretty good. Obviously, you didn't get it all crammed into 3 minutes, so there's some practice has to happen there. But overall, I thought it was pretty good.
Yep.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a whole lot to add to what Alan and Chelsea said. Jerry, I think you brought the energy, which was great. I think you immediately started with the problem, which was essential, and sort of set the hook point. When you started to talk about the differentiation and why you're different and why this is special as compared to what some of the tier 1 firms are doing and how the current challenges that the tier 2 firms have, I sort of, that was immediately sort of gratifying. Like I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I understand where this is going, how he's trying to get a toehold in the marketplace. I agree with Chelsea. When you threw out 26 million ARR for one customer, I was just like, is this whale hunting? Are we shooting down the Death Star? What are we doing here? Like it just seemed almost incredible. I know that that kind of math is possible in some businesses, and perhaps this is one of them. But it was just it sort of pricked up my spidey sense. I was like,
Right.
it just seemed a little too good to be true. And so if there's a way that you could have tempered that point, or at least helped me process it, because it may make perfect sense to you, but as an outside investor, even as someone with experience in financial services, I was like, whoa, that seems like a really big nut, And so it caused me to think about credibility in ways that were detrimental to you, right? And so so you don't want that to happen in the real pitch. Otherwise, I think just a little bit of practice and tightening would you could cram the whole thing into 3 minutes. I think it was probably a 5-minute pitch that was squeezed into 3 minutes.
You're right.
But you had exactly the right staging and exactly the right slides. So I thought that was and they supported your narrative very well, right? I wasn't reading the slide, I was listening to you. And when I glanced at the slide simply supported what you were already saying, which meant my attention was focused on you, not on the slides, which is what you want. So I thought that was really positive.
Yeah, really
Thank
good
you.
point.
That's great. And great observation. It was a 5-minute
Okay.
down to 3, so I was scrambling trying to get it down to 3.
No, you did well under the circumstances. That's tough to squeeze all that in. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask one question about 26 million? I've heard that over and over again, and it is 10% of the market. So, and we've got a contract. So what we have to do now, to be fair, right? That assumes the 26 million assumes 100% close of all of their partners.
There you
See
go.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they've got about 5 or 6 different partners. I have to close those partners. Now, we do have one contract on board, and that will likely be about $1.5 million or $1 million contract. I mean, I've also closed. I mean, let's be very clear. The biggest contract I've closed is about $38 million. I know how to close multi-million-dollar contracts.
So as a feedback mechanism, that feedback probably doesn't get you to where you want to go. What you want to do is get them to a meeting, right? Not defend and explain it. And the thing that Alan talked about was you counted all the chickens. And what he needs is a realistic understanding of how you will count the chickens as you make progress.
Yeah.
And that difference is fundamental in terms of getting a sense of where people are at. So I'm going to take you off the stage, and if everybody else would turn off their mic and camera, that would be good. And Dennis, I don't know how you got on the stage. That's interesting.
I don't know. I had an invite and I couldn't do anything except accept it. So here I am.
Yeah.
Feel free to.
I think somebody else was playing.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Uh-oh.
I
There you
lost
go.
everybody.
You have to turn off your mic and camera.
Me? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right, there we go. All right, Jared, I'm going to bring you up and see if you're ready. Jared, turn on your mic and camera. Ready to
I
go?
think so. Let's see here.
Let's get the screen sharing going.
Why? I'm not really sure why it's not popping up. Is it? Can you not see it?
No.
Pull me back in. Give me one more.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. Brodnya. You have slides?
I do, but they are let's see, hold on. They are from a much longer presentation, just so you know, so I will be flipping a little bit. Wait.
Sure, that's fine. You ready to
Are
go?
you, can you see the slides?
I can.
Fantastic.
Advocate.
Thank you. I'm Pradnya Desh, the CEO of Advocate Technologies. We're a legal AI enterprise SaaS solution. I'm an attorney, previously U.S. diplomat and law firm partner. Legal help is expensive. The Fortune 500 spends $315 billion on the legal function, which is around 2% of their total revenue, which is why for the past 3 years, Fortune 500 companies have been working to reduce their legal spend and looking for creative ways to do that using technology. And that's been intensified in COVID. But getting the legal function right is vital. Keeping up with ever-changing law, avoiding human error, and considering the risks and opportunities is important for the protection of the company. At Advocate, we multiply the ability of each attorney with our enterprise SaaS solution. Our enterprise SaaS solution takes the process that attorneys use to research, analyze, and write legal documents and reduces that time by 80% using artificial intelligence and natural language processing. We are innovating in the natural language generation and natural language understanding domains to generate legal documents and recommendations from conversations with attorneys. So you can see from the slide, an attorney talks to the system and it outputs completed legal documents after the conversation. We have several patents underway. We have several patents in process on our technologies underway. And we have built a demo with a working back end that's very similar to a conversation that I might have had with my junior attorney when I was at a law firm, which means that attorneys will not have to change their workflow, which is very important in our customer research for attorneys. So we are releasing a building block of our tool next week, which is the ASQ, the questionnaire tool, and the full platform we're releasing in January. Our total addressable market is $64 billion, which is the amount of money that the Fortune 500 spends on legal research and drafting. Our customers will be corporate in-house counsel, legal departments. I'm going to skip past the go-to-market strategy and then go back to it. Where we are today, we have several pilot customers who are going to be using our system, the building block system in a couple of weeks, and the full pilot that starts in January. The University of Washington and its legal clinics, Electric Sky, a national law firm is excited to use our product, but not excited to be on our pitch deck. So, and also the privacy department at Microsoft. And 2 other national law firms are our pilot customers. I'm going to pass, let's see, we are an enterprise SaaS model charging $200 per attorney per month. We'll offer annual subscriptions and three-year subscriptions with multi-license discounts. Let's see. Our team, so Good AI. Oh.
Who's your team?
Yeah. Pardon?
Tell us about your team for a second.
I would love to tell you about our team. So our CTO wrote 25% of Bonsai AI's code before it was acquired by Microsoft. Our chief scientist teaches natural language processing at Berkeley and has written key algorithms for Microsoft, Conversica, and Mayo Clinic. And then we also, our chief strategy officer has extensive sales and marketing experience, and I have deep legal market experience, having managed a law firm that sold to some of the same customers that we are selling to.
Cool, thank you. Alan, Chelsea, and Eric, would you come on stage, please? Click on your mic and cameras. Cool.
Thank you.
Chelsea, you want to start with the feedback?
I thought it was a really good pitch in the sense that I am very interested in hearing more about it. As far as feedback, I really liked how you broke down your market, because I don't quite know this area very well. So that was nice to see. You're kind of like, we're cutting down to focus on document creation. I don't know the process. I'm not a lawyer, so it was nice to see that you kind of built that in. Yeah, I think it was pretty good in that sense. I don't really have anything negative, so to speak, at this point.
For me, I think, yeah, I mean, I think you present very well. It's still not clear to me exactly sort of what the problem is. I think I know what the problem is, but I think you could do a little better job of really boiling down the essence of what the problem is that you're trying to go after here, and how that impacts those law firms or the in-house law departments of corporations that are, I think, outsourcing a lot of that work to other law firms, right?
Right.
So I think that still is not entirely clear to me of what you're happening or what the problem you're trying to solve there is, and I think being very crisp about that is going to be important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, again, this is go ahead. This is a personal thing. I think when we chatted in the little other room before, it's just one person's opinion. I would move a quick introduction of your team more towards the front of your 3-minute or your elongated pitch time, so you can get that out there. And the reason I would say you want to do that is because you're saying, "Hi, my name is Brad. I'm the CEO of Advocat, and this is kind of my background." And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make an appeal to authority, right? So that I will listen to you because you have some background in what you're trying to talk about. And then that is now, and that's going to be for you. And then when you talk about your team, this is why me and my team can go after this task. And this is why you should listen to us. It's why we're primed to go off and solve this versus somebody else, because we have this good stuff. And so when you set that stage and you appeal to that authority early on by sort of promoting yourself and your team, then it makes people more interested to listen. And that way you get it out there versus the end that never happens. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Power Pradnya, that's what I'm going to call you from now on. That's your new nickname. No, I building on, actually, Alan made a very important point, and I was gonna say it a little differently. I really liked the way that you started the conversation establishing your bona fides, right? So immediately I felt like, okay, this is an expert who knows what she's talking about. She's been in this business. And so I had that level of confidence. And then when you got to the technology and I saw the technology slide, I was like, oh my God, she has no idea what she's doing, And the only reason I say that is because I actually do have a background in NLP and some of these other things. And so to build on Alan's point, had you put the NLP team on the front burner along with yourself, I would have been like, okay, well, they're doing something, I guess I'll figure it out later. I wouldn't have been as doubtful, right? Because I was like, wait a minute, how did a lawyer and a diplomat suddenly do NLP? And this is complicated. This is a hard problem domain to solve problems in. So, and then you kind of glossed over, you were sort of like, oh yeah. And we're going to have a conversation with a lawyer and it's going to spit out a 50-page document. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'd like to see what's in that document, So I immediately, my level of skepticism was rising as you were going through the presentation. And I think to building on Alan's point, my skepticism would have been more suppressed if you had brought the team's bona fides up front along with your own, right? Because obviously the team can't all be there on stage with you at the same time. So what I would have probably thought if you'd have done it that way is I'd have been like, okay, well, I don't completely understand what they claim to be doing, but they seem to have some smart people, so I'm willing to listen to them more, right? Rather than immediately going through a litany of objections as to why maybe this is not such a great idea, right? Or maybe it's not as legitimate as it would otherwise seem. The other thing that jumped out at me in your presentation, and again, 80% of the presentation was spot on, rock solid. The only other thing that jumped out at me that caused me to pause was your assessment of the market and kind of how you determined that you wanted to go after just Fortune 500. I thought immediately, the question just popped into my mind about why only the Fortune 500? Is there no room for this solution in smaller legal firms? Does it have to be corporate attorneys? Can it be other attorneys? You know, I started to kind of think through that. And again, it led me down a path of thinking that I think you don't want your investors to go down, because it's going to lead them to come up with more objections, right? And you want to try to nip those objections in the bud as part of your presentation. So that was a concern. So I think if you could maybe put a little bit more meat on the bones around how you chose this market and why that's the one, that would have allayed my skepticism.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Any final thoughts, Alan or Chelsea?
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay, good. So this brings up the notion that all of the investors are ADD, and when you give them hair on the ball, they get all tangled up in it and go running down a rabbit hole somewhere. So, you know, just pretend that everybody's attention deficit disorder, and you can only give them one thing. So thank you so much for engaging in that.
Thank you.
Okay, if I could get your cameras and mics. And Jared, we're going to try again.
All right, let's cross our fingers here. Perfect. It's just not showing up. Let's try.
It's just not showing up. So you want to do it without the slides, or you want to try again?
The slides are pretty important.
All right. Try again.
Alrighty.
John, if you could turn on your camera and mic, I'll bring you up.
How are you?
Cool. Do you have slides?
I do. Let me get those out. How's that? Can you see?
Yeah, working great. So 3 minutes. Go.
Howdy. My name is John Lane. I'm the founder of Snowball. Pay off debt, build wealth automatically. It's pretty systematic. I don't know how to advance the slide.
Arrow keys.
Try that. Sorry, got it. Is that so? The real big problem is this $14 trillion of consumer debt. Student loans have increased 600% in the last 15 years. The problem is the accrued interest, $10.4 trillion. This is straight from the Federal Reserve. Average mortgage, school loan, credit cards. The real issue is school loans. That's what we're tackling, right? The other solvable problem is lifetime of payments. We can cut 30-year mortgage down to 15. We can cut a 20-year worth of student loans down to 10. We're going at it, but we're starting a lot smaller, right? Women own student debt. They own about 65% of the debt, ages 22 to 35 with annual incomes of about 40 grand. The reason we're helping this specific market is because they typically owe about $4,000 more than men, and their credit scores are ding 7 points more than men. So I think it's a real problem that can be solved. We've done a heck of a lot of research. We've talked to about 800 students and 300 different interviews with families and borrowers. Our solution is very simple, right? Financial freedom as a service. I know it's catchy, thanks. We have 5 different pieces within it's actually a desktop app. It's easier to show on a mobile phone, but it's a desktop app, right? 5 pieces. Automated, we target the principal amount, which eliminates the accrued interest faster. This is a typical borrower. They might have 10 loans, but we can target specifically which loan gets to get paid off first. Highest interest rate, highest balance, most accrued interest. $15 a month extra, as an example, could be paid onto that debt. The other piece is the friends and family. We encourage mom and dad and aunt and uncle and grandma and grandpa and employers to help pay off the student debt, eliminating the debt faster. This is our example, right? You save, if it's a normal student, you're $5,000. If it's mom, dad, aunt, and uncle, you're saving $15,000 and 11 years off the life of the loan. That's my 3 its. Thank you very much. John Lane, Snowball.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Eric, Chelsea, Alan. Alan, you want to kick this one off?
Sure. So, John, I believe you that there's a big problem there. Oh, got some backup feedback. But I honestly I don't know what about that big hairball of a problem you're trying to solve. That part is not clear to me. I don't know if it's just we're going to help our customers identify the worst part of their debt and to pay that off faster and help them build that discipline and that muscle around that. I'm not sure if that's what it is or if it's something else. And so I think, again, getting sort of crisp about what that problem is going to be key for your pitch coming across. I think that also this is a problem that would benefit greatly from an emotional appeal in this situation. So I think these student loans, you kind of got to it later on, but these student loans are taken out by real people who have, real challenges paying them back and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you can somehow draw, the audience into that problem space with that individual, I think you'd be able to make a much stronger opening to your pitch. So if you came out, for example, and said, hey, hi, my name is John Lane. I'm the founder and CEO of Snowball. I want to tell you about Chelsea. Chelsea, graduated from the University of Washington. She majored in X, Y, and Z, and she came, she was the first person in her family to go to college. And as part of that process, she racked up, $100,000 in debt. And this is what it looks like. And this is where she's at. And so you can really personalize it to an individual human being. And that would draw on sort of the emotion of the people who are listening to your pitch to get invested in what you're talking about. So that's, the getting clear about the problem and then sort of personifying that problem, because the space is very personal, I think will make your pitch much better.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Excuse me.
Chelsea, you want to go?
Oh, I was going to let you go.
Oh, okay. I'll go then. Just a couple of thoughts to build on what Alan was saying. I think I enjoyed the presentation. Where Alan was a better sleuth than I was, I kind of filled in the blanks with my rudimentary understanding of what I thought you were trying to do. But the truth is, Alan's right. You didn't really explain how it is that you're like, hey, there's this thing called principal and we're going to knock it down early and it's going to be awesome. And I was like, okay, but how are you going to do that? By paying, it's at the end of the day, it's all about the payments and about the money. So what's the secret sauce, right? Like I can pay my debt down faster if I double my payments every month, right? So there was that missing piece that kind of I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt on, simply because I wanted to believe your story. And I really enjoyed the slide where you had financial freedom as a service and you're like, yeah, it's catchy and here it is. And so you showed the different scenarios, and I dwelt a lot on that slide and I found myself really kind of getting behind the idea of the message. It would have been much more powerful if you'd have put a particular person's face on it, so to speak, as Alan alluded. The other thing that jumped out at me is I have no idea why the company's called Snowball. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I was like, okay, there's this awesome financial product that's going to save, women, borrowers. And I was immediately thinking of like my sister and my daughter and my wife and, experiences that they've had with debt and student loans and things. And I was just like, wow, wouldn't it have been great if this was around for them, when they were in school and stuff like that. So overall good pitch, just a little bit of tuning and tweaking here, and I think it'll be a great pitch. So
Thank you. The idea of snowball has been around for about 20 years, popularized by Credit Karma, Dave Ramsey. Yeah, there's a list of people who've been using that terminology for a long time.
Okay, so the snowball is like the snowball rolls downhill and gets bigger. Is that the okay?
That's exactly. So we have snowball, snowflake, and avalanche are our three pieces.
I gotcha. I like Principal. That's the one that stuck with me. I was like, okay, Principal, my Principal. Yeah, that's awesome. You know, that was cute. So
Thank you very much.
So I think I've got a few pieces of feedback. So I kind of agree with Snowball. Like I got what you meant about the intro snowballing, but that's the product name. So I think you might have some issues with that. It's the AWS product name. So I would look into that. It's a very big one. It's a storage solution. So yeah, I would look into that. I think you could have some potential infringement issues there. And I'm sure we have Adam who could maybe talk about that more. Second thing, I don't really understand why you're targeting women, because I think that just students in general have the same issue. I don't know how women are different in terms of paying off their debt and paying down principal. Like everybody can do that. So I guess I don't get that. The other thing, I was going to say something else, but I'm going to skip that because I don't know if that's really relevant. But I have a friend who did have this situation. She went to law school and she had $100,000 in student loan debt, and she went ahead and did this on her own. She didn't have any solution to do this. She just called them up and said, hey, I want you to apply this amount to my principal. I don't really understand why there's a financial system needed to do this when you can already do it today. So I would need to understand a little bit better, like how you're differentiated from somebody being able to do that already. If it's a matter of education, you know, people can go and find those things online now, and make that happen on their own.
There's a lot of loan stacking, right? So a lot of borrowers have 5, 10, 15. I have one customer with 17 loans. And so you have to try to figure out which loan to pay off.
Mm-hmm. So, and I guess I would say that because that was immediately, I'm like, well, I can do this already. You know, I can do this with any type of loan as is. So I would call that out. I think you're going to find that your investors have a lot of financial experience where they're going to know how to do this themselves. So maybe describe the market, how they may not have that experience, or they may have a lot of these loans and just the complications that go along with it.
I will talk about that. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Sure.
So the hard part that I think Chelsea is focused on that I think is important is that angel investors project their experience into the cracks of what. And so when you leave a crack that's unfilled, again, more hair on the snowball, they project into that and use their experience. And so if you're using a demographic as an audience, which they then project their experiences into, they can be completely off for what the experience of the demographic is. And so you have to frame that up tight at the beginning so that they're in the right frame of mind, essentially, when you explain the rest of it. So thank you very much. I'm going to take you off, and then we'll go to the next one. All the investors, please turn off your mic and camera. Lee, you're next. Turn on your mic and camera, please, Lee.
Okay.
Thank you. You have slides?
Yes, I do. I'm going to try to share a screen.
Yep.
Okay, so share screen first, and then can you see it? Okay.
No.
So how would I do this? I do share. There we go. You know, I have to.
Okay. So what did you just click on so that Jared can do that too?
So what I did was click on share screen, and the screen popped up, and then I have another tab open. So if I go to the tab, I lose everyone, but I think you could see my screen. My
So I think when you click on screen
Mhm.
share, you have the option comes up about whether to share your entire screen or an application window or a Chrome
no, it
tab.
just has a little okay. Okay. Pitch. Yeah. Okay. I'll try again. Share screen. Just application and window or Chrome tab? Chrome tab.
And just do the Chrome tab that's in there, and then you'll get that
Okay.
one.
Oh, there we go. Is it working?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Cool. So 3 minutes starting now, and I'll be back.
Okay. So this is a part of a larger deck. So I'm just going to jump through it as well. Is that okay? Hello?
That's good.
Okay. So Jekka Energy Bar Company, plant-based superfood energy bars. My name is Ree, and I'm the founder of this company. And my story essentially begins with me as a cancer researcher, needing something. Commercial bars were not acceptable, made homemade bars, and then got traction from there on. And the problem that I experienced was that choosing healthy is really difficult due to lack of good options. Usually something healthy is associated with something that tastes terrible. And so I wanted to make a change in that view by making choosing healthy a no-brainer with our bars. So our product value proposition is that they're plant-based, made with superfoods and minimally processed, so that they're paleo-friendly, and bringing in global ingredients for added interest, and also subtract from the bar soy, dairy, and gluten, sugar, and added oils, as well as making them conveniently packaged for on-the-go use. Our products were launched with 3 flavors: coconut and curry, almond dates, and matcha and seed. And if you look closely, the ingredients are super clean, and the nutrition is balanced between fats, proteins, and sugars. The product is currently on the market. We have traction, and we have partnerships with local as well as national businesses such as Whole Foods and Kroger's. So in terms of why now, what's the opportunity? There's a huge food trend going toward plant-based. Grocery shopping has been disrupted, especially with COVID, and there's a lot of demand for these types of convenient items. So food trends, as I mentioned, plant-based is big, but there's also been a trend toward decline of big brands and really rising of smaller brands. Consumers are expecting origin stories, and they want authentic products. And the way they're eating is different too. They're no longer eating 3 meals and leaning towards something that's going to be convenient and snacking throughout the day, as we're looking for products that are better for you and convenient. In terms of grocery shopping, there's also been a huge disruption, and online grocery shopping has accelerated, and with the COVID, it's expected to accelerate even faster. Is that 3 minutes?
Poof.
Oh my gosh.
Lincoln. Yeah. All right. Alan and Eric and Chelsea, could you come in? Eric, you want to start?
Nope.
You're on mute, Eric.
Microphone.
That went so much faster than I could possibly imagine.
No worries. It happens to the best of us. So I had a little bit of an unfair advantage because Ree and I had a chance to spend some time together getting to know the product. So I was my expectations might be a little higher because I already knew a lot about what Ree was working on. I would say from a pitch perspective, in terms of the slide deck, I found the narrative in the slide deck in the 3 minutes that you spent kind of giving us the story to be very analytical, very scientific, and I would say to a certain extent that is good because, I think a lot of investors are very analytical people who want to understand, what they're getting into and how the market works. But I felt like it was missing a little bit of a more emotional narrative, right? Because we're talking about food after all. And so it's not like we're talking about a pharmaceutical or, a satellite that we're going to put in around Mars. It's something we eat. And so it's something, to me, I felt like what was missing was I sort of got lost in all the numbers that you were describing a little bit, because you kind of went through and said, hey, there's these edible oils and it's balanced nutrition and all this good stuff. And I was like, okay, well, that's all well and good. But, is there, I don't know, for lack of a better word, an emotional reason why I would want to eat this thing or not. And so I think it goes back to some comments that Alan made with some of our earlier presenters about the story, the narrative, kind of, it might be more successful if you were to tell the story of a busy professional who has her job as a cancer researcher, and she's a mother, and she has all these things going on in her life. It gives some emotional tenor to the story, because otherwise, I think if you drown out into all the scientific data that supports the quantitative goodness of the product, it loses its passion and its interest, if you will, in some sense. And so, because I think the biggest challenge you have as a food product is how to stand out from among the competition. Because there is a great deal of competition in this space. There's a lot of, last time I went to Whole Foods, there was an entire aisle dedicated to health food bars. Same at Trader Joe's. They have like a half an aisle for health food bars. So it's going to be hard for you to stand out. So I think for investors, they want to understand why you're different. And to me, that would be the thing to hone in on.
So I think the problem was in the timing, right? Because once I go further down in the deck where I do a deep dive into the customer persona,
there you go.
That's really dive into the individual needs of the customers, what that customer looks like, and we actually have an internal data to really show how Jekka bars stand much farther ahead of those bars that are being embraced right now, like Kind bars, RX bars, and Laura bars, which all very distinctly are leaders in a category of bars. And when we did the internal study and took the polls and analyzed the data, of the 7 attributes that the consumer said were important to them, we outranked them in the scale of 1 to 10 by 60% in the 6 of the 7 categories. So that
you're trying to defend your pitch. And it's a pitch deconstruction so that you can hear about the pitching process. What you really want to do is to intrigue them enough so that you get them into where you can then explain the details of this. So the defending of that will lead you away from people wanting to dive in deeper. And so work on that piece of how can I get feedback now to be better at convincing people to come to my next meeting.
So it should be more not go into all of that and just really focus on my story and the customer story then.
Unless this group of angels has already indicated that they're interested in investing and in digging deeper, you haven't hooked, still in the advisor role. And so you're switching from the let me hear advice to diving into the details about why I'm right about what I presented, as opposed to trying to learn how to be better at presenting. And I want you to keep your mind open a little bit for how to improve the part of it.
Right.
Chelsea or Alan, do we have some additional comments in here?
Sure. Chelsea, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I would differ a little bit from Eric. And I don't know that I care so much about like the story behind like who's going to eat them. Like people eat meal bars, whatever. What I would like to know is like, why are you different to what Eric was saying? when I go into, a store and I'm looking at all these different meal bars, why am I going to pick yours? What am I looking for? Why did you even decide there's some sort of a niche here that you can fill? I have eaten a lot of meal bars, and I'm interested in like what you said about the balance of the proteins and the fats and the carbs. And so I'd love to hear more about that. But like, I really want to know a little bit more about like the differentiation you offer in your product. I think that would be good to call that out first, and then you can go a little bit more into the details. Like, here's what we learned about how this is differentiated, why there's an opening in this market for us.
And just to build upon that, at the very end of your time, you mentioned about how it's important for products, as part of your pitch, you're talking about how it's important for products in that space to have origin stories and authenticity. But then like nowhere in your pitch did you actually provide your origin story. So I think to me that was kind of an interesting, dichotomy that came up there. The other thing I would say, sort of in keeping with the feedback that I've been given, is that you kind of went through a number of different, like, let me tell you about these facts that you kind of went through as part of your pitch. And the hard part was when presenting certain kinds of facts or facts in a certain way, is that people will sort of slow down and they'll start like thinking about your facts and your numbers, and they'll like start doing math and this sort of stuff. And as Chelsea said earlier, most investors, they have some sort of financial, skills, or they wouldn't be doing this sort of thing. And so when given some like numbers or things to start calculating, people start calculating stuff. And that calculation process from a psychology perspective is, in one person's view, is something that in general you want to stay away from. Because people will start finding problems in that. Your numbers won't add up exactly right, or there'll be something else. And if something sounds funny with your numbers, then I become less interested because I don't think you can do math. And so I think you want to stick towards the non-analytical stuff as part of this sort of smaller, shortened pitch sort of thing here. There's definitely times when it's going to be like, hey, show me your spreadsheet and show me how these models work. And then I want to understand those numbers. But in general, I think you want to stay in this idea of like, you want to generate emotions, and you generate emotions through like hot cognition, and analytics is cold cognition. And that's just a different thing. So that's, again, my opinion, but I think you want to try to stay in a shortened pitch. You want to stay away from having people do math.
Yeah. And I want to add on something. I was thinking about, Eric, how you were talking about, hey, I go into Whole Foods and there's this entire aisle, and in Trader Joe's there's a half aisle. And it's just like, wow, this is a super crowded market. So like, why would we want to go after something in this really crowded market? And I think that's really important. Draw us in with like, what's that specific little problem you're solving that these huge, aisles don't already solve.
Yeah, Chelsea, I think that's a really awesome. I thought about that too. I think that's an awesome point. I think that people are going to have that perspective about, hey, it's crowded, and so that's something you're going to have to hit right off the bat in the very beginning by just like admitting it. Hey, I know this is a crowded market, but this is why this is the area of opportunity we still see, and this is why we think we are primed to go after that. I think about the market for video conferencing solutions. Like, I would have never invested in like brand new video conferencing solutions, yet we see some that are popping up that are going gangbusters, right? Even though there's a bunch of embedded competitors out there, established competitors, sorry. So I think that's just something you got to hit right off the bat.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of video conference solutions, I have a list of 90. And so there's more and more coming.
90.
Wow. 90.
Wow.
Great. So thanks so very much, Lee. And we will engage in some mingling afterwards. I'm going to take you off, and then next one up. If everybody else could mute your mics, that would be great. Rahul, I'm going to bring you up next.
All right.
Do you have some slides? And can you get slightly closer to your mic?
Oh, sorry. Is this better? Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay, let us start up. Hey everyone, my name is Rahul Vasisht, and I'm the founder of StatRookie. So what is StatRookie? We are a fan engagement platform that focuses on education. So let's talk about why fan engagement is important. Watching the game isn't enough for the modern fan. If you look at, especially for young fans nowadays are picking their favorite teams and players by their favorite video games on NBA 2K or FIFA or Madden. In addition, engagement helps helps sports franchises connect with their fans during the offseason, especially now when a lot of sports aren't being played. And proper fan engagement will lead to significant revenue bumps. So in terms of fan spending, two of the biggest indicators of fan spending are if a team can provide in-depth analysis of their team's performance, and if they're able to provide community outreach stories like education, volunteering with their teams, and so on and so forth. The issue is with in-depth analysis. A lot of the really impactful in-depth analysis of the team requires you to understand some math, right? If you're not familiar, sports analytics is a big buzzword nowadays, and it's essentially using math and data to gain a competitive advantage in the sports arena. So we thought that we could at StatRookie, we wanted to use sports analytics as a medium to teach math and data literacy skills, so fans can get a better understanding of the game on the field and understand math and data literacy off the field. So how does it work? We provide modules every month to teams with different content like understanding a pick and roll by exploring game theory, or understanding probability by knowing if your favorite player is going to shoot a two-pointer or not. So a little bit about our design philosophy. Our design philosophy is based on three different things. We got to keep it authentic, we have to keep it actionable, and it hooks fans. So authentic, our content is centered around real in-game scenarios. So you look at the impact of using math and data without feeling like a fan is reading from a textbook, right? The classic example of shooting a cannonball and solving for its arc. If you replace that with a basketball, it's not really authentic, right? So we like to keep our content authentic. It's actionable, where fans can take what they learn and apply it in an in-game scenario, like for instance, getting competitive advantage in their fantasy sports or understanding predictive analytics. And we want to hook fans, right? So that was quick.
Practice.
Yeah.
Alan, Chelsea, and Eric, would you come up? Chelsea, you want to lead off?
Sure. So I am not a good sports person. I played a lot of sports, but I'm not like into doing as much of the analytics. So just full disclosure.
Yeah.
That being said, I do not fundamentally understand how what you're trying to do increases sales. And it also seems like you're trying to teach some math and game theory in a way that doesn't align. So it's a little bit confusing to me what you're trying to do. That being said, maybe somebody who has done, fantasy football more than one time would understand what you're doing. So that being said, there's probably a lot of people that are like me that don't participate in sports analytics and stuff like that. So you do need to be able to explain it to people like me.
Yeah, thank you. I think I need to practice a little more and getting faster. So
no worries.
Yeah, the meat was there. Trust me.
I believe you.
So Rahul, I'm still not clear actually what you're trying to do. That would be my bottom line message. Mm-hmm. I'm also probably not your target customer, but but that's okay. I could be a target investor, right? That doesn't necessarily matter in that regard. But for a person who, like Chelsea's saying, she doesn't follow this stuff very much. I pay attention to sports, but I'm not like a sports nut kind of person at all. So I think you have to figure out how to explain the opportunity, the problem space in a way that can sort of cut across. Let's say Eric is a full-on sports crazy person. Like, you have to be able to get all three of those, sort of personas from an investor to understand what's going on here with what you're doing. And I'm not sure that you've accomplished that.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Work on that.
Yeah, I think it sounds like of the three of us, I'm the closest to your target demographic, and I'm also not a part of your target demographic. So, but I hang around a lot of people who do rattle off sports trivia and statistics, and my son plays a lot of fantasy football stuff. So I'm close enough to have a vague idea of what you're trying to do. But again, I agree with Alan and Chelsea. It's not immediately clear to me how you make any money. So I was as you were leading into the whole, once you threw out game theory, I was like, oh man, now we're off the rails, because you're going to educate me on game theory and I still don't know how you make money. So I felt like we just overshot the goal here. And then but presuming that there is a way to make money and that you have thought that through, I think kind of building on what Alan and Chelsea said, it might be helpful to give a simple example or a very simple story that everyone who's ever been to a sporting event could relate to. Yeah. So, for example, what happens when some famous baseball hitter approaches home plate and is ready to take a swing? How would I, as a baseball fan, how would I engage with your product in order to understand what's going on there? How would you use that as a teaching moment for me to help me understand how baseball statistics work in a way that is intriguing and interesting and kind of captures my attention and is gamified, right? Because people are already attending these things to participate in a sporting event. And now you're sort of, as I understand it, you're trying to add a layer of gamification on top of that and gamification, education, statistical analysis of some kind. So, make the game fun, right? I'm willing to download your app and play with it, but I need to know, what's the game? How do I win? What do I do? Right. And I think the presentation as currently built is a little too theoretical, right? It's a little bit too up in space in the stratosphere about here's what we're trying to do. Give me a grounded example that I can wrap my head around in a fairly short order, so I don't have to think too hard about it, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think I addressed those a little bit later.
Yeah.
So I need to bring those forward.
Yeah.
And
remember, setting the hook. It's still even if it's 3 or 5 or even 10-minute pitch, it's still a very short period of time. Yeah. I don't think you're going to be able to get into the level of detail that you've got in this deck in that short of a compressed time frame. So give me something that leaves me wanting more. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
That's right.
Almost never do you need to be complete in the pitch. What you need to do is to leave enough of a question that they want to come in. And it's also an opportunity to seed questions that what their questions will be, so that you can then show the slide that you wanted to show that dives deeper on the things, so you can manage the broader follow-on conversation in some level.
I have a quick question for the group. In terms of what you would find most important, do you think that providing who's currently in the space and why you are better than them, should I bring that forward first, or should I kind of wait to, not better than what different?
Yeah. I think you need to get us to understand what you're doing first, because I don't care about your competitors until I even know what you're doing. I think that this is an important space. Like, people want to engage with sports and we can't really go to events right now. So how do you get them to engage from you're stuck at home, here's how we're going to bring you in and make you feel like you're part of this event, like that kind of thing. It is more of the emotional tie-in, I think, that we've been talking about with a lot of these pitches. But how does it work? That's unclear.
And why do they care? What's exciting about this? And that,
I think to be clear too, I have to you didn't get that my customer were teams, right?
No,
Your
we didn't get that.
customers
We
are
thought maybe it was
teams?
fans.
No.
I mean, I assumed they were, but I don't understand like what you're doing for them.
Okay, yeah.
Like you're teaching their fans math. I don't know why a fan would want to learn math, I guess. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like it seems like a good application to teach, I don't know, teenage boys math or something. But I don't really understand it that well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to have a mingle session afterwards so you can dive deeper into people understanding it. I'm going to take you off and bring Paul up if all the investors would take
Thank
the
you very
mic and
much.
camera off. Go to the next one. Thank you. Ready, Paul? Turn on your mic and camera, please.
It is, and I just need to know which screen to share here. I think, and I hit this current slide. Just let me get the slide up, and we'll be. Do you see the slide? We're in a mission. Oh,
Yep,
remarkable.
we're good.
Okay, so tell me when to go. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Paul Siegel from Starweaver. We're on a mission to transform technologists into world-class experts and business people into tech-savvy leaders. What does that mean? We're a technology and media platform that delivers completely new, immersive, compelling, and connected education for tech people. Okay, so think of Peloton and think of that immersive experience, but for technology and business education. So it's live and engaging media, much like you've seen probably on some of the videos for or you participated on Peloton. It's social, that's vital for education, connecting to real people, alive people, not a library, and it's software and analytics that drive the system. Media, social, and technology. Let's assume, okay, so what's the problem? Pretty simple, the completion gap. Linda, Pluralsight, all the platforms you've ever heard of probably are disconnected education. These are their data. 15% of every course that you've probably ever taken on Udemy is completed. We complete 70 to 90%. That is to say our students complete 70 to 90%. This is an expensive, painful problem for companies who are our clients. It's an $18 billion market, and I'll get into some detail on that in a second. Okay, it's immersive, it's habit changing, and it's social. In these three buckets, learning, doing, and connecting. So it's not course-based, it's skill-based, it's competency-based, it's role-based, it's activity-based, it's team-based, it's CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, habit forming. And it's not a theory. It works. It's in data science, cloud, full stack agility, and a general category of business. We happen to have a strong, and I happen to have a very strong experience with 400 courses online now in finance. What does it look like? It looks something like this. Our platform looks a little different than this, but that's why we're looking for funding now, where the learning, doing, and connecting are bucketed. It has categories. It has connecting with real people. It has, as our name says, connecting with stars, star systems, teams, and leaderboards, all doing things collaboratively. If you go to our website today, you will see 3 time zones. America's, we're running on the IBM Watson Cloud. And what happens is we give away free streaming courses. Why? Because people don't want just the streaming part, they want the immersive part. What does it surface? Look on the right. These are all companies within the past 10 days that have been on our site, and look how many people. These are all juicy, nice, transparent clients, and they told us what they want to learn. So they've gone to cloud, they've gone to full stack, they've gone to DevOps. What's the acquisition cost? $1,500 to $7,500 a customer, 60% margins, and very substantial lifetime value. Okay, what does it look like from a success metric? I've done $1.8 million on this technology, not in this business, but with this technology that I have a patent pending for. We did 1,700 people on our first course, and we've had other successes. As I said, it's an $18 billion market that we're focused on. And we're sitting up here in the highly personalized social realm. Others are sitting in the solo ad hoc realm. We've got a solid team, and we're ready to go.
Cool. Thank you. Eric, Chelsea, and Alan, can you come up? Alan, you want to kick off?
Sure. Paul, I think, for me anyway, I felt like you were trying to jam a lot of information into a very short period of time, which made it hard for me to follow the key points of what it is you were trying to get across. Similar to other ones, I think I understand what it is you're doing, but I'm left not sure what it is you're doing. Some of the information you threw out at the end kind of piques my interest as far as, maybe I want to know more about that. So I think that was good at the end. But again, I feel like some of the other presenters tonight, you didn't nail that first thing, which is a clearly articulated sort of problem or opportunity or whatever it is you're trying to solve in the beginning of the presentation, for me anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just add, as a learner, as someone who's used these platforms before and is familiar with some of the problem statements that you pointed out, I didn't. The problem statement that you're pointing out didn't resonate with me personally, because I'm not an employer trying to get other people to finish their courses, right? And so I felt like the positioning of your platform as solving a problem that HR at a large Fortune 500 company has didn't make me jump up and down, because I'm not an HR executive at a large Fortune 500 company. So I was trying to imagine what that problem must be like, and what HR execs at Fortune 500 companies struggle with, and I'm not 100% bought in on the problem, only because I don't think the way Fortune 500 companies evaluate success or failure of their employees is predicated on whether or not they complete a training session. That said, I was intrigued by you did set the hook with me on saying, hey, we have this much more immersive, Peloton, but for training, kind of high order bit. So I thought that was a really good talk track, and that had some legs to it. But I never got the payoff, meaning I was left at, you showed some screenshots and I was like, okay, well, where's the secret sauce? What's the thing that makes this special? Where's the patented technology that I keep hearing about that, I didn't have a chance to experience that. And I'm wondering if maybe the presentation might have been stronger or more hot cognition, as Alan pointed out earlier, if there was an opportunity to see the product in action, or maybe do a demo.
Oh, sure.
So that's a thought that sort of popped into my head. So I guess a little more explaining on the problem, like, why is course completion a problem, and how do we measure that problem? And you sort of talked about the size of the market, which made sense, but you didn't really explain, like, what gets lost when people don't complete their courses online, right? Like if my kids don't finish their courses in class and they get Fs, as a parent, I have a problem. But if I'm an employee at a Fortune 500 company and I don't complete my class, what happens? Is it a safety class? Is it you talk about technologists and business people, but then I kept thinking about much more blue collar type activities, like safety training in an automotive factory, or I know a guy who's trying to train migrant workers how to not hurt themselves with farming implements. And so these are the types of things where not completing the course can result in somebody getting hurt. And so that would have made a more, I think, compelling explanation, I guess. So,
well, if I can respond just for 1 second, is I mean, obviously, it's hard for me to explain that if you build your cloud solution on AWS incorrectly, all of your client databases get hacked.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, wow. But so, there's obviously the importance for the employer is not, we don't even really deal with the training departments mostly. We deal with the business decision makers. Mm-hmm. The problem is they are, maybe I should have positioned it differently. 80% of the spend is to employers who want to have people trained, not because they're ticking a box. Maybe I should emphasize that we're not doing the tick the box training, the kind of compliance stuff, which no one really cares about. It goes in one ear and out the other. We do the kind of training where they're building machine learning apps, where we have global employers that want to know, like Boeing and American Express and Cigna, that they want to know that people understand this stuff because they've got complicated systems to build.
I got you.
So that's kind of...
Paul, John's going to come in here in a minute and talk about defending your pitch. So... Sorry. So Chelsea, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm realizing as you guys are kind of speaking about what you heard, that we've all sort of heard different things about why would an employer want to use this? So we've kind of made those assumptions. So yeah, I think it's important to call out like, this is the problem we're solving for employers. I actually really did though relate to the course completion stuff, because I'm also somebody who likes to go and sign up for all these classes.
So I think that because we didn't extend the meeting room, it just booted everybody.
Hi, Jared. I am going to bring you up.
Okay.
You want to share your screen?
Yep. Yay. Look at that.
Look at that. All right. 3 minutes starting now. Go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jared Minks, and I am the founder of Drop Zone. Many of us are familiar with the standard black mailbox that has been around for now about 200 years. It goes hand in hand with the Pony Express, and that's awesome. It revolutionized mail delivery at that time, but we're absolutely living in a different age now. The issues are changing, the environment is changing, but our solution has stayed the exact same. Is this simple mailbox going to take us into the next era of automation? We don't think so. 54% of people are reporting anxiety over lost and stolen packages. Right now, the last yard of that process, delivery drivers drop a package off your doorstep for weather, thieves, and pretty much any element to come and handle that package at that time. When that does happen, $109 is the average cost to replace a stolen item from a delivery. And overall, for Amazon and these different industries, $12.9 billion is the annual cost of that, of having these packages misplaced. Some of the preventative measures right now, staying home for delivery, shopping at stores, many of these are inconvenient options. And the funniest one is people install a doorbell in order to stop this from happening. So there has to be a better way, a way that is smart, a way that is convenient, and a way that is aesthetic. And it changes the game for at-home shipping and receiving. Introducing Drop Zone, the first personalized, smart, home integrated shipping and receiving station made just for you and your family. What we're looking at here is a two-way audio-visual interface feature, iOS remote application for controlling the access to and from the Drop Zone itself, shipping and receiving logistics control from uploaded parcels, showing you exactly what came into and out of your Drop Zone that day, all the way through from the moment that you purchase the item to the point that it gets to your house, all automated and all synchronized to your devices. Overall, the residential shipping industry is about $127.5 billion. Of that, we're trying to hit 15% of HOA communities and new real estate developments, including contractors, landscapers, and architects. And around that, for our initial beachhead, is looking at a pretty significant $930 million market. Looking at our competitors, there are definitely people that have tried to pioneer in this space. They've done somewhat of a decent job getting in and getting the toes into that space, but we're looking at some pretty main differentials here. The one most prominent is smart home integration. None of the competitors on the market are actually integrating with Alexa and Nest to say, hey, Alexa, change the temperature of my house, open the garage door, and read me my mail today. Overall, within the second year, we have a break even at 1,250 units sold. And we have an awesome team ready to execute on this idea, change the game for shipping and receiving from the home all the way through to commercial. And we are excited to take the world into the next phase of automation.
There you go. So, do you have traction? Are there people that are buying your product today?
We have just started customer discovery to reserve units, get pre-registered units reserved. And that actually has just begun this week. So I'm hoping to have an answer for you here pretty soon.
So what I would say is no. And then and what you suggested was that you're doing customer discovery, not product validation. And if you're already making offers for pre-order, you've skipped the customer discovery. So there's a whole rant that I have there about what customer discovery means and how you find people with the problem and so forth. But there's a whole bunch of stuff there. So it felt to me, in terms of how you were presenting it, that you were talking about an idea stage company by the choice of words you were using, and you that with data and that prove that you have some engagement. You spent, in the 80-20 rule, you really have 20% of your time to talk about the product, and you probably spent more than half your time on what the product was. And so you really have to pull that in tight so you can show us your go-to-market, so that you can show us your team and make it go, right? And if I'm a guy at home and somebody steals my package and they're going to replace it anyway, then why am I motivated to do something about it, right? So there's a certain amount of proving that the customer that's paying actually cares to pay, right? And so that's going to be really important to it. I think that you haven't practiced this a lot, and that you have a habit of putting filler words into what you say. And that's why it took longer than you expected, because you were using filler words to get your head aligned on what you're going to say next. And you have to practice so you squeeze those out, and then you can make it more pointed about what you're doing. So can you go back to the very first slide? So what is it that you want me to get out of this slide?
The fact that right now we are working on a super ancient system, and with new automation and things coming in the future, there needs to be something that is ready to absorb those issues and have a solution for it.
You know the 10-20-30 rule? So 10 slides, 20-minute pitch, 30-point font. So all that slide says to me is the problem. That's all my eyes can see, right? So again, investors are ADD. So you're drawing them in a bunch of different directions, and you're telling them the problem. Well, why don't you say actually what it is, right? Just tell me. Don't put the problem, the solution, the whatever. Put what it is that you want, right? We're in delivery is changing, right? And so use that to support that conversation for you, right? And I put into the slide deck before a checklist. Let me see if I can go to, did you get that? You were?
Yes, it's kind of up here. Yep.
Yeah. So that checklist has a bunch of those thoughts. I think it's worth your while to go through that checklist against your thing, but it sounds like you're a little bit on the early side, and that you would like to create the data set so that data set is compelling about where you're going, and then to practice this thing up a little bit tighter so that you land on what the request is. What do you want me to do with this pitch? That's a question.
Oh, sorry.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, so really, I guess it was more or less just getting what I do have. I do not have traction. I do not have, the data that you're looking for and that investors are looking for. Right now, what I am trying to do is get the feedback. And as if this was like, if I was at the stage that I'm ready to invest, or raise capital, I probably would hold back from this deck and try to have something more comprehensive. But yes, at the end of the day, raising capital, I guess, is the answer, or right?
The next meeting is the answer.
Say what?
So you want the next meeting. You want to invite them to come to the next meeting so that you continue the conversation. So you didn't have financial projections in there. So at the core of this, there are two important pieces, right? Understanding how this is a business and how it pays off in the end, and understanding how people care about this, right? So the first question is, can the team execute as a team on a business that ends up looking like revenue, right? And then the second question is, does this team, is the audience, does the market care that this team is executing? And that looks like week over week growth in revenue, right? So there's some kind of graph in here with some data behind it that shows you've got customer engagement and it's flowing.
Right.
That's not the right graph. That's hard. Again, it's only going to be there for 30 seconds. Opposed to make me understand quickly. So it has to be a
Gotcha.
graph, not a bunch of numbers. Every time you give me a bunch of numbers,
Gotcha.
it makes me have to think. And as soon as you have me thinking, I miss at least one slide, if not 2 or 3 slides, as I think about it, right? And I also stop listening, right? And you don't want me to stop listening. You want the slides to support me listening stronger to you, right? So if you could do your slide deck for the first version as just a collection of images with just the title, which simply says the point you want to make, that would be a very helpful practice deck. Do you know what an Ignite is? So Seattle Ignite is 20 pitches, 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide, auto advance. So that's a 5-minute pitch. What that does is give you 20 talking points, and it forces you to practice really tightly with the talking points, and it helps you get those filler words out of your language, because if you put filler words in accidentally, then you miss the transition, because the transition is going to happen whether you're ready or not. And so that makes it important, right? And so if you would like me to know something about that break-even analysis, right? So you would tell me that I'm cash flow positive in N months as the title, because that's the point you want me to walk away with, right? And you can drive that conversation.
Okay, so basically kind of wipe everything else and just focus on the break-even detail that I want you to see and experience on that slide.
Yeah, I would argue that one key point where you might have some supporting points that you talk about, but the key point anchors it and then supports you talking about it, right? And we're basically walking through about 15 things, right? All the things in the lean canvas. Who's the customer? How are you finding early adopters? What channels are you using? What's their problem? What do they do now? Why are you better? What's the details of the solution? By the time you get done with that, plus team, plus go to market, plus market size, then you've pretty much gotten yourself to the core of what needs to be there. And then you have and this is what I want to have happen, right? And now you've filled up all your slides, right? Now, income and expense are all in one slide, essentially. And so what they really want to see is what's the flow look like, and then what do you do with the investment, right? Those are the two pieces of finance that need to be addressed, right? And again, you like multiple things on a slide, right? You have 3 different things in a bunch of those slides that just went through. What's the point you want me to focus on? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully
that was
that's
extremely helpful. Thank you.
So we're going to do another one of these pitch deconstructions or an Angel Ignite, one of these things or the other thing on the 25th of August. And so there's time for you to practice again and work on that as well. We also do open coffee every Tuesday morning, so we can talk about details on that if you like.
I was wondering if
any given week. Take us off of Kent so that we can go to the table and chat among ourselves.